You want to know the difference between a woman who gets overlooked and a woman who gets respected? It's in the way she talks. Not the pitch of her voice, not the volume, but the weight of her words. High-value women don't beg. They don't chase. They don't over-explain. They speak with clarity, with calm, and with power that makes a man stop in his tracks. When she talks, it's not about pleasing, it's about leading the conversation with certainty. She doesn't waste time convincing, she states what she feels, what she wants, and she leaves it at that. A high-value woman knows silence is sometimes louder than words. She knows how to say no without adding 100 apologies. She knows how to look a man in the eye and speak from her core instead of her insecurities. And that's the difference. That's why when she says something, it lands. It's not because she talks the most. It's because when she finally does, every word carries the weight of self-respect. Clarity over chaos. That's the mark of a woman who knows her worth. When she speaks, there's no confusion, no back and forth guessing, no exhausting effort to decode what she means. It's clear, it's direct, and it's firm. Because when you know who you are and what you stand for, you don't dance around your words trying to make them palatable for everyone else. You say it straight. And that's the difference between a woman who gets overlooked and a woman who commands respect. Too often people think talking more makes you more convincing. That if you explain enough, apologize enough, or sugarcoat enough, the other person will understand and value you. But that's a trap. The more you pile on, the more chaos you create. The more you explain, the more it sounds like you don't even believe in what you're saying. And a high-value woman doesn't fall into that trap. She knows that clarity cuts deeper than 1,000 words ever could. She doesn't ramble. She doesn't defend herself with a 20-minute speech. She doesn't beg to be understood. She states her truth in one sentence, maybe two, and then she lets it land. Think about it. When someone talks in circles, do you lean in? Do you respect it? Do you tune out because it feels scattered and weak? Men do the same. Respect is built on clarity. It's built on knowing exactly what you're saying, and saying it without hesitation. When she says, "I don't like that," it's clean. No need for an S. No need to soften it with "I'm sorry" or "maybe it's just me." It's her boundary. Clear, firm, untangled. And here's where it gets powerful. Clarity doesn't just show up in her words, it shows up in how she carries herself, her tone, her posture, her eye contact. You can hear it before she even finishes her sentence. There's no nervous laugh attached, no rising pitch at the end, like she's asking for permission to feel the way she feels. It's steady, it's final, it's rooted, and that's what makes people stop and listen. Clarity is confidence on display, and confidence is magnetic. Men aren't drawn to women who water themselves down to avoid conflict. They're drawn to women who know exactly what they want and communicate it without fear. It doesn't mean she's harsh. It doesn't mean she's cold. It means she's grounded. She can say, "That doesn't work for me," with the same calmness as saying, "I'll have coffee," because to her both are simply decisions, not performances. The chaos comes when someone is afraid of being misunderstood, so they try to cover every angle, every possibility, every reaction. They load their words with disclaimers and justifications, but clarity refuses to play that game. Clarity says, "This is where I stand. If you get it, great. If you don't, that's on you." That's power, and it's a power men feel immediately. Because it sends one clear message: she respects herself enough not to dilute her truth. And here's the thing, men don't remember every word you say. What they remember is how you made them feel when you said it. Did you sound uncertain, like you were searching for permission? Or did you sound like someone who's already made up her mind and isn't afraid of holding her ground? Clarity makes the difference. A woman who speaks with clarity makes a man feel like he's dealing with someone solid, someone steady, someone who won't be tossed around by emotions or outside pressure. That's what makes her unforgettable. When she speaks clearly, she's not performing for approval. She's not fishing for reassurance. She's not trying to keep the peace by swallowing her needs. She knows peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from honesty. So she says what she means once and trusts herself enough to leave it there. That's the kind of clarity that changes the energy of a room. It cuts through noise, it ends arguments before they start, and it shows everyone around her that she can't be shaken off balance. And if you want to test how powerful clarity really is, think about the last time someone told you no without hesitation. It stung a little, didn't it? Not because they were rude, but because it was so certain, so unshakable that it left no cracks to argue with. That's how a high-value woman talks. She's not unkind, she's unshakable. And that is rare. Clarity is her armor. It protects her from manipulation, from games, from disrespect, because when her words are clear, no one gets to twist them. No one gets to pretend they didn't understand. No one gets to use confusion against her. She eliminates the gray areas. And in a world full of people who thrive on gray, that black and white certainty is intimidating. But it's also deeply respected. So when a high-value woman talks to a man, she's not thinking about how to make him like her. She's thinking about how to honor her truth. And because of that, she doesn't stumble. She doesn't second-guess. She doesn't dilute. She says what she means what she says, and she lets the chips fall where they may. That's clarity. That's power. That's why men respect her even if they don't always agree with her. Boundaries without apology. That's what separates someone who gets walked over from someone who gets respect. A high-value woman knows that every time she sets a boundary, she's protecting her peace, her energy, and her self-respect. She doesn't put fences around her life to keep people out. She does it to keep herself whole. And here's the truth. People who don't respect themselves always hesitate before saying no. They dress it up, they soften it, they apologize for it like it's something wrong. But when you know your worth, you don't ask permission to protect it. You say it, you stand on it. You don't water it down for anyone. A lot of people confuse kindness with weakness. They think being agreeable and available at all times makes them loved. But what it really makes them is exhausted, drained, and resentful. A high-value woman has already lived that cycle, and she's not signing up for it again. She understands that saying yes when she really means no is not kindness. It's betrayal of self. And betrayal of self always leads to bitterness. That's why her no is powerful, clean, and unapologetic. It's not about being rude, it's about being real. Imagine this. Someone asks her for something she doesn't want to give. A woman who hasn't learned her value will twist herself into no. She'll hesitate, she'll make excuses, she'll feel guilty, and then she'll either cave in or spend the rest of the day anxious about how her no might be received. But a woman who knows her worth will simply say, no, that doesn't work for me. No long explanation, no guilt attack, no nervous laughter, just clarity, just finality, because her peace matters more than pleasing anyone in that moment. And here's where it gets even stronger. A boundary isn't just about words, it's about follow-through. A high-value woman doesn't just talk boundaries, she enforces. If someone crosses the line, she doesn't give 10 more chances, hoping they'll magically respect her. She steps back, she creates distance, she lets actions speak. And that's what makes her boundary believable. Because a boundary without action is just a suggestion. And she doesn't deal in suggestions when it comes to her self-respect. The beauty of unapologetic boundaries is that they cut out manipulation. Think about it, manipulators feed off hesitation, guilt, and insecurity. They need you to explain yourself so they can poke holes in your reason. They need you to feel guilty so they can twist that guilt into compliance. But when she says no and stops there, the game ends. There's nothing to argue with. There's no weakness to exploit. That's why unapologetic boundaries aren't just strong, they're liberating. They free her from games, they free her from resentment, and they free her from wasting time on people who don't value her. Now some people will call it cold, some will say she's too harsh, but that's only because they're used to women bending over backward, apologizing for their own needs, and sacrificing themselves for approval. When you stop doing that, it feels like rebellion, and it is. It's rebellion against being drained, disrespected, and it's choosing self-respect over self-sacrifice. And the people who can't handle that, they're exactly the ones those boundaries were built for. The irony is that men respect this more than anything. They might not admit it out loud, but deep down they know a woman who sets boundaries is a woman who values herself. And if she values herself, she's not desperate for validation. She's not easily controlled. She's not going to stick around where she's not respected. That makes her unforgettable, and that makes her powerful. Think about how much energy is wasted on apologies. I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm sorry, I just don't have time. I'm sorry, I hope you're not mad. Every extra word chips away at your authority. A high-value woman has cut that out. She doesn't apologize for existing, for needing rest, for choosing herself, or for saying no. She saves apologies for when she's truly wrong, not for when she's protecting her peace. And that shift changes everything. Her boundaries also set the tone for how others treat her. If she allows disrespect, people learn they can get away with it. If she tolerates excuses, people will keep giving them. But when she makes it clear without apology what she will and won't accept, she sets the standard, and people either rise to meet it, or they fall away. Both outcomes are a win for her. because both protect her from wasting her life on people who don't align with her values. The unapologetic boundary is not about shutting people out. It's about letting the right people in. The people who respect it, who value it, who honor it, those are the ones she gives her time to. Everyone else, they filter themselves out when they realize they can't manipulate her or drain her. And that's how she keeps her circle strong, her energy safe, and her standards intact. At the end of the day, unapologetic boundaries are a declaration. They say, I matter, my time matters, my peace matters. And when she speaks them, she's not asking anyone to agree. She's not asking anyone to approve. She's stating, because the moment you apologize for your boundary, you give someone else the chance to debate it. She doesn't debate. She doesn't defend. She decides. And that's why her boundaries stand. Calm power in her voice is what makes people stop mid-sentence and listen. It's not about being the loudest person in the room. It's not about talking over people. And it's not about raising her voice to get her point across. Power doesn't need to be loud. Power needs to be steady. A woman who knows her value understands. She knows her tone speaks louder than her volume ever could. And when she talks to a man, that calm, centered voice carries more authority than yelling ever will. Think about it. When someone starts shouting, what happens? It feels like chaos. It feels like they're trying to prove themselves, like they're desperate for control. That kind of energy doesn't inspire respect. It drains it. But when someone stays calm while everyone else is losing their cool, that's when you lean in. That's when you take them serious. That's when their words carry weight. That's the energy of a woman who doesn't need to prove herself, because she already knows who she is. When she says no, it's not barked out in frustration. It's spoken with calm certainty. When she states her boundary, it doesn't come from anger. It comes from grounded self-respect. That tone changes everything. A calm voice cuts sharper than a scream, because it forces you to pay attention. There's no distraction in it. There's no panic in it. There's just truth, delivered with complete control. And men feel that immediately. They can tell when a woman's words are coming from insecurity, and when they're coming from strength. An insecure voice wavers. It rises at the end like it's asking a question. It apologizes before it even finishes. But a confident voice, it's even, it's firm, and it doesn't break under pressure. That calmness signals strength. It says, I don't need to fight to be heard, because I already know my voice matters. The beauty of calm power is that it disarms people. Arguments die out when they don't have chaos to feed on. Manipulators lose ground when they can't provoke a reaction. A man who tries to push her buttons gets nothing to work with when she responds with that same steady tone. And that's where her real power is. She refuses to give away control of her emotions. She holds her ground not with noise, but with composure. That's what makes her unforgettable. It's not just about words either. It's about presence. When her voice stays calm, her body language follows. She's not flailing her arms. She's not rolling her eyes. She's not throwing her energy all over the place. She's steady. She's centered. And that kind of presence is magnetic. People are drawn to her because she feels safe, grounded, and in control. That's what makes her different from everyone who lets their emotions run the show. Now, does that mean she never gets angry? No, it means she doesn't let anger take the wheel. She can feel it, but she doesn't let it dictate how she speaks. She understands that losing control of her voice is the fastest way to lose her authority. So instead of letting anger spill out in shouting matches, she channels it into firm, calm words that hit harder than any scream ever could. That's discipline. The truth is, most people equate calm with weakness. They think if you're not loud, you're not powerful, but that couldn't be further from reality. Loud is easy. Anyone can raise their voice. But calm under pressure, that's rare. That takes mastery. That takes a deep confidence that doesn't need to be proven. And that's what makes it powerful. When she talks in that calm, grounded tone, she's not asking for respect. She's commanding it. Men notice it because it separates her from everyone else. Most people argue to win. Most people yell to be right. But when she talks, she doesn't sound like she's competing. She sounds like she's certain. And certainty is irresistible. That certainty in her voice tells him, you can't shake me. You can't intimidate me. You can't make me doubt myself. And that's why he listens. That's why he respects her. The calm power in her voice also sets the emotional temperature of the interaction. If he comes in hot, trying to bait her into a fight, she won't match his fire. She'll stay steady, and in doing so, she lowers the heat of the entire moment. That's influence. That's control. Because whoever can stay calm when emotions are high is the one who owns the room. And here's the deeper truth. Her calm voice isn't just for him. It's for her. Every time she chooses calm over chaos, she reinforces her own strength.
She proves to herself that she's in control of her life, her words, her reactions. That self-trust builds unshakable confidence, and that confidence bleeds into every interaction she has. People respect her because she respects herself enough to never let her voice betray her. At the end of the day, calm power is about presence. It's about owning your space without needing to dominate it with noise. It's about choosing steadiness over chaos, certainty over desperation, composure over panic. And when a high-value woman speaks like that, she doesn't just talk, she leaves an impression. Her words linger, her tone carries, and the man who hears it doesn't just listen, he remembers. Respect through silence is one of the sharpest tools a woman can ever carry. It's not about shutting down or pretending you don't care. It's about knowing when words no longer serve you, and when silence speaks louder than anything you could say. A high-value woman understands that. She doesn't argue with people who have already decided not to listen. She doesn't exhaust herself trying to convince a man of her worth. She doesn't pour her energy into endless debates that go nowhere. She knows silence is sometimes the clearest boundary, and the loudest respect. There's power in restraint. Anyone can talk, anyone can fill a room with noise, with explanations, with back and forth arguments, but it takes strength to stay quiet when every part of you wants to react. Silence is discipline, silence is control, and that's what makes it respect. Because silence tells the other person, you don't control me, you don't get to drag me into chaos. I decide when I speak and when I don't. That kind of composure is rare, and men feel it instantly. Think about it, how many arguments spiral because both people refuse to stop talking. Voices rise, emotions boil, and it turns into a battle of who can shout louder. But when she chooses silence, she refuses to play. She refuses to waste her energy on proving herself. That's the moment she flips the power dynamic. Because nothing frustrates a manipulator more than someone who won't give them fuel. Nothing unnerves a man more than realizing his attempts to provoke her fall flat. Silence is her shield, and it's unbreakable. But don't mistake silence for passivity. It's not about letting things slide or pretending she's okay with disrespect. It's about knowing when speaking is pointless, and when walking away says more than words ever could. Silence is active. Silence is intentional. Silence is her saying, I won't even dignify this with a response. That's not weakness. That's power. And here's where respect comes in. When she uses silence, she's showing that she values her energy too much to waste it. That makes people think twice about how they approach her. They realize she won't be dragged into drama. She won't engage in shouting matches. She won't chase after someone to understand her. If you don't get her the first time, she's not gonna repeat herself 100 times. That's how silence creates respect. It shows she doesn't operate on anyone else's terms but her own. There's also a confidence in silence that words can't carry. When someone argues and you meet it with calm quiet, it signals strength. It says you don't need to fight to prove you're right. You're secure in your position, whether the other person accepts it or not. And that kind of quiet certainty is powerful. People remember it. They remember the way you didn't flinch, the way you didn't scramble for approval, the way you simply refused to play the game. Silence also creates space. It forces the other person to sit with their own words, their own behavior. When she doesn't rush in to fill the gap with explanations or apologies, he has no choice but to hear himself. Sometimes silence is the mirror that reveals everything. It makes him realize the weight of what he said, the immaturity of his actions, the emptiness of his argument. She doesn't have to spell it out, her silence does it for her. And let's be real, silence unsettles people. We live in a world where everyone wants the last word, where everyone is quick to defend themselves, where noise is constant. So when she chooses silence, it stands out. It makes the other person uncomfortable because they can't predict her, can't control her, can't get a rise out of her. That unpredictability is powerful. It leaves them wondering what she's thinking, what she'll do next. That's how silence keeps the upper hand. Of course, silence doesn't mean avoiding every hard conversation. A high-value woman knows the difference between silence that protects her peace and silence that avoids accountability. She's not afraid of communication. She's selective about it. She'll speak when it matters, when it's purposeful, when it honors her truth. But when the conversation turns into noise, disrespect, or manipulation, that's when silence becomes her answer. And that's what earns her respect. The truth is, silence is a declaration. It says, I'm not here to argue, I'm not here to beg, I'm not here to convince. I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. It's final, it's unshakable, and it's powerful because it can't be twisted. Words can be manipulated, silence can. At the end of the day, silence is strength in its purest form. It's the choice to value your energy more than proving your point. It's the choice to let go of battles that don't deserve you. It's the choice to show that respect doesn't always come from what you say, but from what you refuse to say. And when she masters that, when she knows exactly when to speak, and exactly when to be silent, she doesn't just earn respect, she commands. Speaking from self-respect, not fear, is the ultimate mark of a woman who knows her value. When she opens her mouth, the foundation beneath her words isn't insecurity or desperation, it's dignity. And that changes everything. Fear-based communication always sounds shaky. It over-explains. It apologizes before it even begins. It tiptoes like it's afraid of being too much. But when her words are built on self-respect, they come out clean, steady, and unapologetic. They don't beg to be accepted. They don't seek permission. They simply stand. The difference is massive. Fear speaks to avoid rejection. Self-respect speaks because the truth matters. Fear waters itself down so no one feels uncomfortable. Self-respect speaks clearly, even if it makes someone else uneasy. Fear bends. Fear chases. Fear bargains. But self-respect sets the tone. It doesn't chase approval. It attracts it. That's why when she talks, she doesn't sound like she's trying to hold on to someone. She sounds like someone who already knows she can stand without them. Picture the conversations driven by fear. I hope you don't get mad, but I don't mean to bother you, but maybe I'm overreacting. That's fear talking. That's someone trying to shrink themselves so they don't upset anyone else. But when she speaks from self-respect, it sounds different. It sounds like that doesn't work for me. I won't accept that. This is what I expect. No filler. No apologies, no nerves, just clarity backed by self-worth. And the beauty of it is that people can feel it instantly. A man knows when she's speaking from fear, because it feels like she's handing him all the power, hoping he'll approve of her words. But when she speaks from self-respect, it flips. Suddenly he realizes he's dealing with someone who can't be manipulated, someone who doesn't need him to validate her. That difference earns respect without her even asking for it. Speaking from self-respect also changes how she handles conflict. Fear argues endlessly, trying to win, trying to prove, trying to beg for understanding. But self-respect doesn't need to be understood by everyone. Self-respect can walk away from the table without slamming it, without screaming, without losing control. Self-respect says, I said what I needed to say. You heard me. Whether you accept it is your choice, but I stand by it. That steadiness is unshakable, and it's unforgettable. It also protects her from regret. When you speak from fear, you almost always look back wishing you'd said less, or wishing you'd said it differently, or wishing you'd stood taller. But when you speak from self-respect, even if the conversation is hard, you leave with peace. You know you honored yourself. You know you didn't shrink. You didn't beg. You didn't abandon yourself for the sake of keeping someone else comfortable. That kind of peace is priceless, and it only comes from self-respect. This isn't about being harsh. It's not about dominating or trying to sound tough. It's about being grounded in your own value. That's what makes her voice different. It carries weight because it's not shaking with fear of rejection. It carries power because it's rooted in knowing she deserves to be heard. She's not begging for a place at the table. She already owns her place. And if someone doesn't like it, she's not afraid to get up and leave. The irony is that speaking from fear never gets you the respect you're chasing. The more you soften your words to please, the more you're overlooked. The more you bend, the more you're taken for granted. But when you speak from self-respect, even if people don't always like what you say, they remember it. They respect it. They know they're dealing with someone solid, someone steady, someone who can't be easily swayed. And here's the truth. Men may test. They may push to see if she really means what she says. But when her words stay firm, when her voice stays steady, when her message doesn't crumble under pressure, that's when the respect becomes real. That's when they understand she's not playing at confidence. She's living. At the end of the day, fear-based words are fragile. They break under pressure. They bend for approval. They vanish the moment they're challenged. But words born of self-respect are steel. They hold no matter who pushes back. And that's why they command attention. That's why they carry weight. That's why they're remembered. When a woman speaks from self-respect, she's not just communicating, she's declaring. She's declaring her standards, her boundaries, her truth. She's declaring that her value isn't up for debate. And the man listening to her knows it. He may not agree with every word, but he can't deny the presence in her voice. He can't deny the authority it carries. He can't deny the respect it commands. Because words rooted in self-respect don't ask to be respected. They demand it. At the end of the day, this is the difference. This is why some women are heard and respected, while others get dismissed and overlooked. It's not luck. It's not charm. It's not playing games. It's clarity in what they say. It's boundaries they don't apologize for. It's calm power in their tone. It's knowing when silence speaks louder than words. And it's speaking from a place of self-respect instead of fear. That combination is unshakable. A high-value woman doesn't need to scream to be noticed. She doesn't need to beg to be chosen. She doesn't need to argue to be understood. She carries herself in a way that makes her words land, her silence sting, and her presence unforgettable. That's why men respect her, even if they can't always explain why. It's because everything about the way she communicates tells the truth. She knows her worth, and nothing can shake it. And here's the punchline. When you learn to talk like that, you stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop bending, you stop giving away your power. You don't just talk differently, you live differently, because the way you speak is a reflection of how you see yourself. And if you speak from power, from calm, from clarity, from self-respect, then no man, no situation, no rejection will ever take that away from you. That's the standard. That's the shift. That's how high-value women talk to men. And that's exactly why they stand out in a world full of noise. They don't just speak to be heard. They speak to be remembered.